begin speaking. We've been cleared for takeoff and we'll be departing shortly.
Go ahead and give that man a round of applause.
That boy's got talent.
Welcome back, everybody. And what we are going to be doing today is we're going to just roughly go over setting up a Pro Tools session and a little bit of the routing, kind of how I set it up. So, let's see here. What you can see is I have a Pro Tools session set up. I did already set up the master track, but if you wanted to do that, you just go over to new, set up a stereo, master fader. But I've already done that. This is going to be more about getting into setting other things up. So, all right. The first thing that I'm going to do is I will set up, I would say, I'm just going to choose 8 stereo aux inputs, right? And create them. Let's go over to the mix window instead of the edit window. So we've got all these auxes here. Let me pull the master fader back over to the right, just so it kind of makes sense as to where everything's going. So these auxes are going to be for what I'm going to use is our sends or our effects tracks like reverbs, delays, anything like that. And then also grouping some vocals together, such as backing vocals, like one aux to send all the lead vocals to. So what I might do in that case is work my way this way. So let's say verse, delay, verse, verb. Then I would do verse, back, verse, lead, verse, P-comp, which will be for the parallel compression track if we choose to use one. And let's stop there for a moment. Okay, so I've got my delay, my verb, my back, my lead, and my comp. Now, let's slow down for a moment. Let me also let's just use this one. We'll call this the 2 mix, where everything goes to. And then we'll make this what I call all vox, where all the vocals end up going to before they get sent out to the 2 mix. So at the end of the day, all the vocals will end up here, right? So let's just say I use bus. Oh, there we go. I've already got it set up. The bus I have set up here is called all vox, right? So anything set as a send or as an output to the all vox bus will be coming in here. Well, now it's got an output. So let's do another bus. And I've got 2 mix set up. So as you can see, all vox coming in, 2 mix out. And then actually, no, I want to do it that way. So we're going to 2 mix in. Actually, no, we'll do it this way because I have some hardware that I use, which actually is, if you can see, it's this compressor right here, which is the successor, and I have the TK-Lizer, which was a mastering EQ. So I will go through that because it's going to be important as far as how you route everything. But I am using hardware in addition to using plugins inside of Pro Tools. So let's say when we're done with the entire mix, we want to send it out. We will not send it out via bus. Buses are internal and software related channels to send and receive from. Your output is your actual physical outputs on the back of your interface. Or at least these analog ones were. I'm not going to get into ADAT and everything. We maybe at some future point, but we're going to keep it pretty simple. So analog 7/8, right? That physically has 1/4-inch cables coming out of the output 7 and 8 on the back of my RME Fireface. So it's going out to this, which then is chained 1/4-inch to the TK-lizer, which then 1/4 inches out back into input 7 and 8 on the back of my RME Fireface. So when it comes out physically using analog 7 and 8 output, and then comes back in or it goes out to the successor, out to the TK-lizer, back in 1/4 inch, and then we will select analog 7 and 8 to bring that signal, because it's been sent digital to analog, and then it's going to be coming back in analog to digital here. That's specifically for hardware routing. So we'll get back over here to our aux inputs. So now we've got a delay, a verb, then we've got a verse backing compilation track, a verse lead compilation track. We've got our parallel compression track, and then we've got our all Vox compilation track that's sent out, which normally, I guess, this is just for presentation purposes, but I would probably, actually, I wouldn't be sending the vocals out individually. I'd be sending the entire mix out, but you get the idea. So now that we've got these set up, what do we do with them? Well, let's color code these all just by double clicking, and we'll just use blue, right? And we'll just do that for all these. And when you're setting up your session, this is a good way to be able to visually tell what tracks are what. So I'm just going to use that. So now I know that all my aux inputs and all that are all blue tracks. So now let's make, I don't know, let's just do 3 mono audio tracks, right? So let's go ahead and color code these. We'll just make them yellow. Okay. Now, we can see that we have these color coded for aux inputs blue, the vocals are yellow, and you can even get further into it if you wanted to say the audio 1 was going to be a lead and 2 and 3 were going to be backings. You could change it even more and say, okay, all my leads are yellow, all my backings are purple, so on and so forth. Master track red. Okay, so we've got these tracks. Now, there's a couple of things to do here. Let's say this is lead vocal, right? So let's just say, okay, so that's lead vocal. So we're going to want it ultimately to end up here, right? On the lead. So we need to set an input for it. Let's just choose 19 and 20 just to kind of show you guys how this works. Okay, so down here, which is lead vocals output channel, we're going to use a bus because we're not sending it out to a piece of hardware. We're just wanting to internally route it to a channel. So since we have 19 and 20 selected to that, we're going to do that. Now let me just to show you, let's get over here and I will show you. Check. Check. Okay. So that should have captured that. Check. Okay, so as you can see, it's coming out of here, it's showing up here, and then it's showing up over here because of the routing. Check. Now, you might say, but it's going out to analog 7 and 8. So how's it getting over here if you're not using a bus? Well, once again, that's when if you're wanting to shoot something out of Pro Tools or any DAW and, to a piece of hardware and then back in, that's where you use your hardware outputs and inputs. So that's what's going on here, is that it's coming out of the lead vocal, and then bus 19 and 20 is coming in right here, which is bringing that back in internally, and then it's going out to analog 7 and 8, which is right here and then to here, right? It's coming out to all Vox, that should actually be set to bus all Vox, right? Now you're going to see that it comes from lead vocal to verse lead to all Vox and then out. Check. And that just gives me individual control over here. But then also, if I want to make a universal change to a set of instruments or vocals, I've got them compiled over here for quick totalitarian adjustments, not individual ones. So once again, just to recap that. Check. That's how it's getting there. Now, let's kind of talk about sends as well, because and these delays and verbs and verse backs. If this were my backing vocal here, audio 2, instead of sending it out to 19 and 20, I would send it out here, verse back, go down here to the bus, and pull that in. Now you'll see, if I chose to record some audio here, check. You'll see that it comes here. And then, if we wanted to route that to all Vox, instead of going out to analog 1, 2, we come to all Vox here, and now you will see the audio from here over on the all Vox, then to the 2 mix, then to the master. Check. So if I unmute the lead vocal and I leave this backing, you'll see that they're going to different places, but ultimately ending up in the same. Check. So that is how you're going to route the outputs of your tracks to go wherever you want them to go, and then also to pull them back in, whether you're using buses internally or using hardware outputs. That's how you're going to route those to go through the session. Now, you might be saying, okay, but what about these delays and these verses or these reverbs? So let's just say I'm going to just place a delay, doesn't matter which, here. All right, yeah. And then we'll put a reverb here. Oh, yeah. Change the aspect ratio. Just bear with me a moment here. Had a little snafu. Okay, so let me get back over to the edit window. This might be a little bit harder to see because it's changed the aspect ratio of it. I think a plug-in did that. Anyhow, and it must have been this air reverb. But so this is where your sends come into play. See, I have, let's see, verse delay, right? And then verse verb. And then I think I will use, do I have one for that? Yeah. PCOM, right? That's, so what you're going to see now is I've set these sends to go out to these 3 buses. Now on the delay, obviously I'm going to choose verse delay. On the reverb, I'm going to choose verse verb. And then on the PComp right here, I'm going to choose, let me see here, verse, PComp, right? And let's see here. Let's also make certain that we send these out. I'm going to send them to AllVox. Now those effects will end up over here after they leave these tracks. Now here on these send faders is how much of the effect you want, how many decibels you're going to send into that channel to apply that effect. So we'll just kind of pull them up. Now I'm not going to get on this tutorial into actually setting up a parallel compression chain here. This is just for routing. So now if I push play, check, 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 check. You can hear that. I don't know how much you can hear the delay. Let me turn the mix up a little bit. Check, 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 check. But you can hear that those effects are coming off of these 2 tracks. Now, if I were to mute these, it'll just be the raw again. Check, 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 check. Or it should have been. I'm not sure why it did that. Probably because I muted one of the wrong ones. There we go. Now we've got them both muted. Check, 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 check. And then once again, check, 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 check. So you see that that's how we get these effects. And then you can use these to universally bring that effect down or whatnot. And make sure that PComp check, 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 check. Yeah, that signal right there is where we place the parallel compression chain at. So that is, where you're using sends that you're not placing on the track. You're having an alternate version or an additional version of the signal going out to a dedicated channel where those effects are placed, where you can change and manipulate the amount of the effect or the intensity of the effect, but you still have a relatively clean lead signal as your backbone to build off of, or at least that's the way I go about it. But you can see, once again, and always clean your sessions up, label them all the way through, even though I don't have these labeled, but, it's just a tutorial. But label them, color code them. They color code down here. They color code up here. It just makes it easier to kind of know where things are at in your mix and be able to visually kind of differentiate what's going on. I suggest that you do it. Color code, label. Also, label your buses. I have some here that aren't labeled. Like I got this 1920 hanging out that I sometimes use on just whatever. But all of these other things I have labeled the buses, so it's easy to just be like, okay, all Vox is right there, hook delays right there. It just makes it quicker. It takes a little bit of time initially, but when you're setting up your mixes in the future, it'll make it go a lot more smoothly. And then once you've got your session set up the way that you like it, you can go up here in the corner, and I believe, let's see where it's out. Yeah, say save as template, right? So once you get a session, and you might make multiple sessions or multiple setups as far as sessions go, and you can save those templates as different ones. Say you have a setup that you use when you're doing a hip hop song and one for a rock song, or whatever it is that you record. If you've got a template set up to kind of get you started, get you, you're already jumping into it, set up, organized, where everything is. It's going to make the recording process a lot smoother. It's also going to make the mixing process a lot smoother if everything is categorized and color coded. But that's like a crash course on how I set up a session and kind of how I do the sends here and how I route the outputs, both for internal busing and external hardware outputs, and how to get those hardware outputs back into your DAW once you're finished. So I appreciate you hanging out once again. Hope y'all enjoy your day. Peace and chicken gravy.